quiet seaside town, an evil laid to rest centuries ago, has risen. An abandoned fortress deep in the swamp holds a secret that could save the village or destroy it. Now, a band of adventurers sets out to dig up the wounds of the past and bring the light of day to the roots of ruin. This is Tabletop Gold.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Tabletop Gold, episode 115. My name is Lars Casteen. Glad to have you here. It's a level up episode, everybody. We're leveling up. Can you believe it? The player characters are level 7 now. It's a huge episode. It's the first time we've done this in quite a while. And let's meet everybody to see who they are before we talk about the thing I just said. First up, here's Robin Lange.
Good that time.
Good that time. Armat Humphreys.
Good that time.
Zoe Chernicoff.
Great that time.
Oh, David the Tin Man Chernicoff.
Exemplary that time.
Zoe, you just sent a message to chat pointing out that episode 115 is what? What did you just say?
23 times 5. I mean, you can't make shit like that up, right? The facts are the facts.
The facts are the facts. We ended that combat with Jafaki last episode, with Jafaki taking 23 points of damage. That's coincidence enough. But having 23 hit points remaining, that is scary.
It's scary. That was exciting to knock Jafaki down.
Good. I'm glad it was exciting. Yeah. I'm glad people are having a nice time. Speaking of having a nice time, we're going to jump straight into it. We do this every time we level up. We do a quick little chat about character options, things that people are doing. I want to kind of expand this conversation a little bit this time, because I think this last character level 6, I think a lot of interesting things happened. I've been thinking about it a lot. Zoe pointed out, it took quite a while. It's been since episode 86, 87.
Were we ever any other level? I don't remember a time like that.
Yeah, so we're using the milestone leveling recommended by the Adventure Path in the Abomination Vaults, written, of course, this book by Vanessa Hoskins. But it recommends hitting level 6 when the player characters clear out the majority of the 5th floor, and it recommends hitting character level 7 when Jafaki is defeated. So there just happened the way that it went. There just was a long gap there. So sometimes that's just the way the dice tumble. So there you go.
That's pretty good. I thought that was good.
Thanks.
I liked the dice tumble.
You liked it? Good.
Yeah.
I hope everybody at home liked it too. It was more for them. Zoe, I'm glad that you enjoyed it, but I hope that everybody at home really, really liked it. Level 6, a bunch of big things happened. 1, we lost Vadim. Vadim is gone, and Istin is now here. I'll start this off just asking all of you a question. How different does it feel to have this new character swapped in mechanically? Does it seem like it makes a big difference? Because Vadim was a very defense-oriented character, a lot of damage reduction and that kind of thing. That's not what's going on with Istin. How different does it feel now, or is it not that big a difference?
Well, when I was thinking about my own, because so much of Trill, when I'm thinking of Trill, I'm thinking of buffs as well.
Yeah.
And there was a couple different spells I was looking at that would have to do with slashing damage and finesse. It's oh yeah, we have that. And then you had to remind me, no, we don't have that anymore. Because I feel like Istin has had such bad luck with rolls as well that I don't feel like I've gotten to fully appreciate what kind of combatant Istin really can be. While Vadim, I knew how Vadim worked and what Vadim could do.
Yeah. I think part of that is that Istin is just much more flexible than Vadim. There's a lot more stuff going on. Armat is choosing between many more different things than he was.
I was going to say part of it is that for his first 9 episodes or whatever, poor Istin was unable to accomplish anything. So I don't know that any of us were
Exactly.
clear on what he was capable of for a while.
What
Mag's
is it
still figuring
you
it out.
do here?
I'm still hazy on it, to be honest.
Honestly, I sort of am too, frankly. Actually, though, I got to thinking, you know how we were joking the other day about Istin being the reliable D? That is sort of true. He's like got the right damage for any sort of saving throw or, you know.
Yeah. Like you can hit basically any defense you want to. I wonder if that's like a feature of the arcane spell list. That's not something that in our games we've had a lot of arcane casters, and I kind of feel like the deal with arcane is just outrageous flexibility. Like you can kind of do whatever you want to with that list.
Yeah, that totally makes sense to me. I had so much fun going through this, and there are like so many niche spells that I wanted to take on this level up, but have decided to go with what seemed like reliable standbys.
Well, we will get to that
Yeah.
in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. But first, the other headline that I thought was happening on this last level, this just as a casual, disinterested observer, there were a lot of difficult encounters that specifically impeded your strategy. Like I feel like there were many combat encounters this specific level that were like directly, not by my design, but just like for whatever reason or another, like there were a lot of uphill fights.
I feel like I keep talking, but with the Sugathis were tough for Trill.
Oh yeah, the mental immunity
Yeah.
was like a real bugbear for
That stat block was really, really frustrating.
And they were bad for Mag. Like we talked about it as it was
they
happening.
float above Mag.
They
Yeah, that
float
was-
like okay. So to show my cards a little bit, I think that the 2 biggest things that happened in level 6 were 1, Trill getting Dirge of Doom, a big deal because it helps you mathematically and it sets up AO for sneak attack damage. The other big thing was Mag getting knockdown for basically the same reason. Setting up AO for sneak attack damage, you had like 2 consistent ways that you added that you were like ready to employ on this level, and the Sugathis shut it down over and over and over again because of their high reflexes, they're floating, and because they're immune to mindless.
Yeah,
Or
I
whatever.
wouldn't describe knockdown as feeling particularly useful at the moment.
Which is
honestly,
really interesting to me.
Yeah, my experience with it has been very similar to our old favorite, Assurance in Athletics. Because like, oh, cool, use your like super goosed up athletic skill to like do something else that'll help out, but then every time you use it, it doesn't work.
Right. And you're saying that's bad? That's a bad feeling?
Because I was going to say because I'm new to the game. I guess I'm not as new to the game anymore,
Right.
as I was when I was newer to the game, but I'm still relatively new to the game, and I can't tell the difference in those circumstances between like I've made like the dice are like the stat block is just not great for my character, right? Like it's just one of those things, or the dice are against me, or I've made a like silly choice in how I've built it, or I've made a silly choice in how I'm playing it, right? Like all of those things look identical to me. They just look like, oh, I've got this new thing I can use, but the first 5 times I try to do it, it doesn't work.
Right.
I have no idea why that is.
Yeah.
With Assurance and Athletics, I think I know why it is now. It's because it's dumb and it doesn't ever work.
Yeah, that one you can't blame on dice rolls because it end arounds them.
Right. There are no dice rolls. I took it at the point where everybody takes it. The point is that it just doesn't do anything because the way that it's calculated, you automatically don't ever succeed. So that one I feel like I've got down. But knockdown not working, I was basically like, oh, this just never is worth the action to do it. But maybe it is in other circumstances. Or maybe it's Assurance again. I feel like I need another like 10 episodes to figure it out.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I'm excited to see how it goes. The other thing that I wanted to bring up just before we move into like character stuff is I feel like the Hat of Disguise is the other big shift that happened over
For
the course
sure.
of this
Oh, yeah.
run of episodes.
It was well used. It
Yeah.
was used a lot. Sorry, that's
was
what I should
thoroughly
say. It was
used.
thoroughly
Yeah.
used.
I mean, I think it's fun. It keeps me on my toes as a GM. Like it definitely makes it so that I, like I always have to pay attention to what disguise AO's wearing and try to think through like, what does that do? Like, what do we? Because when you're putting the disguise on, you don't know what's on the other side of the door.
No, for sure, right? I'm always
do.
just taking. I always have some vague idea of what she might claim that's fictitious based on the disguise and what she might try to do with it. But I would say I can't think of a time where it's worked out the way I thought it would. Sometimes it's been like more fun or more entertaining, but it's never like I have this plan and then I can effectuate it.
Right. It's not like a controlled demolition.
No. Yeah.
It's chaotic. But it's fun. I've been really enjoying it. It's definitely not something I've dealt with before. Like I've never run a game with a lot of disguises in it, so it's a learning experience for me as well. The other thing I want to mention, sorry, I said that was it, but there's one more thing. No, fuck it. Okay, so moving on. Let's talk about new character options because we're leveling up. Everybody's picking new stuff. Let's start with David. David.
Yeah, that's me. Yes.
The Tin Man.
David.
The big headline for Mag, as far as I'm concerned, is more damage this level.
Yes. At this level, there's a step up in damage from, well, there's a couple steps of damage happening at once. So going to level 7, the Fury Instinct, Mag is a Fury Instinct Barbarian, and that, whereas other types of barbarian instincts add like various different mechanical things, Fury Instinct pretty much just like gives you a little extra damage when you're raging, and that little extra damage has been a little extra damage so far, and is now a little bit extra damage. It's gone from +2 to +7.
+2 to +6, and then you also hit weapon specialization, which is the thing that like most martial classes get at level 7, which is 2 more. So 6 more flat damage every time Mag attacks.
Plus, I also, with the skill increase at this level, I boosted my strength. So there's another one coming from there.
Oh, athletics, right?
Yes.
Here's what I'll say. If you got athletics at master and knockdown is not working for you, then you should cut knockdown, because you've invested so much in athletics that if it's not doing it now, it's never going to do it. Like if it's not good, it's never going to be good.
That's my feeling as well. Yes. Knockdown. I have my eye on you, knockdown. Of course, I don't know that there's anything much better that I would take instead. I just want some of my toys to work. Like I can't intimidate anything. I can't throw anything. I can't trip anything. I used to try to trip it another way, and I could never trip it. I'm happy to hit stuff with a hammer. It doesn't like bother me to do that a lot.
Right.
It is strange to feel like I'm at the buffet, but I can only eat the bread.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
So maybe, I don't know, I'll if it doesn't start working, I'm gonna roll up a Dompier. I don't know.
Nice.
Roll up a Dompier with exactly the same stats as Mag.
Yeah. And then just watch the trips roll in.
They just roll on in. Cool. Well, David, thank you so much. I hope that evens its way out for you. I kind of think it will. The other game that I've run in this system that Armat played in was the Agents of Edgewatch campaign, and we had a gymnast. The swashbuckler class has like one of the things you can do is you can be a gymnast, which just trips constantly, and it was terrifying. It was like a horrifying character to try to throw any kind of challenge at, because they just nonstop trip people and then slice the shit out of them over and over again. So I believe.
So you're saying tripping is possible in the game? It can be done.
You've seen it happen,
and you're doing all this stuff. Like you're doing the stuff. My hope is that like the game starts rewarding you, and that like we start seeing how messed up this can really be.
Yeah,
is what I hope.
Yeah. Well, the other thing to throw out there is that I got a new feat, and I've taken Hefty Hauler. because I guess mechanically it's helpful because I'm carrying numerous weapons for Mag so that she can deal different types of damage. At some point, maybe I'll just get a shifting rune and all that will go away.
You're carrying people out of the thing a lot of the time, too.
Exactly. I do feel like story-wise, it's pretty earned since every couple of days, Mag hauls another inert form out of the dungeon back to town. And obviously the bag of holding being something that Mag carries and feels strongly about. So the idea that over time she's gotten better and better at figuring out how to carry everything around physically for the party kind of makes sense to me as well. So.
Yeah. What that ultimately means is that Mag is now encumbered when she's carrying 12 bulk, whereas Trill and Ao are encumbered when they're carrying 5 bulk. Like, Mag is way strong now.
I think of Mag as someone who has broad shoulders in every sense.
Yes.
You can carry some of my stuff because I can never carry it. I guess you already are.
I mean, she also carries me, so
quite a bit
really.
of your stuff, yes.
When
true,
you
right?
look back and see only one set of footprints in the sand,
you did.
that is when you were in my pouch.
That is when Mag carried you.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is when I put you in the bag of holding for the maximum of 3 minutes.
Exactly.
Before letting you back out again.
Let's move on to Robin.
Hi.
Trill, as far as I'm concerned, the big headline with Trill is spells at level 7.
I mean, that's usually what it is with Trill. Yeah, level 7 was pretty exciting. So that skill increase also just opened up a lot. Trill now has, because also of her gnome obsession from her level 5 level up, she's master in both her lores.
Oh, yeah. What lore does Trill have?
Haunt lore and wisp lore.
Haunt lore and wisp lore.
Yeah, both feel good right now.
Both master.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's plus 15 on those checks.
So that's gnome obsession. Trill is so obsessed with wisps and haunted things that she is suddenly a massive expert on them.
Yeah.
Let's talk spells, though. Do you want to talk about these 2 level 4 spells that you picked up?
Oh, I was going to say the Ancestry feat as well.
What do you got?
Because it's originally a general feat, and then there's that Ancestral Paragon, so I got to take a gnome feat instead.
Yeah, Ancestral Paragon, the general feat that lets you take Ancestry feats instead.
It's pretty good. So now she's got a Empathetic Plea. I can't wait to bring that one out.
Okay, let's talk about what that is, because I think that's a hilarious feat.
So basically, it's a reaction now. Trill has this reaction that if an entity that she has not been hostile towards, like she has not attacked yet, attacks her, she can use her reaction to basically implore them not to attack her.
That's pretty awesome.
The text is, the way
awesome.
you cringe or use those puppy dog eyes you've been practicing elicits an empathetic response in the attacker. If you critically succeed at a diplomacy check, the creature pulls its attack and can't use hostile actions to you for a while.
For a
So you're
while? That's
yeah.
vague. Just
Well,
it's like,
I'm
wild.
vagifying it until the beginning of its next turn.
oh wow.
So it can't like try and attack
Wow.
you again on the same turn.
Yeah. And you can keep doing
I love
it.
that.
That's pretty
I love
fun.
that. Yeah, it's just a reaction, just a free reaction.
I feel like it also has
glimpse.
echoes of Vadim. I was gonna say
That's
it's like
the thing. It's
I like the
kinda
idea
what
she like
Vadim would
picked it up.
say. Not quite as good as Glimpse, but still pretty good. Trill's. I'm tired of Trill getting hit.
I'm not. I think it's great. I think it's always exciting when Trill gets hit. So I don't know what you're talking about.
I think of Trill not getting hit. Trill took some attacks for
Okay.
her spells.
Oh.
I realized I'd taken before, and I don't think I even mentioned it before because I was like so excited to pull it out at some point. But I'd taken Rouse Skeletons.
Yeah.
But in these tight quarters that we keep fighting in the dungeon, Rouse Skeletons was impossible to use because it would have just been detrimental to everyone she was with as well.
Yeah, it creates an area that becomes difficult terrain and deals a little bit of damage. So
Yeah,
if
the
you're,
skeletons actually keep attacking.
Yeah, and if you're in somebody's face already, it's like difficult terrain doesn't help you much. And Paizo famously makes their adventure path maps very small, very confined. So
it didn't work out
It's
so
good
well.
on
So
paper,
I dropped
but-
that
yep, okay.
for Concordant Choir.
Oh yeah,
That's another a sonic attack,
yeah.
evocation attack against a fortitude save.
It just does sonic damage. It's just simple,
Yeah.
straightforward to the point.
But depending on how many actions you use for it, you can do just one action. It
Yeah.
has 3d4 sonic damage. You can do 2 actions. And it's 64 to all creatures in a 10-foot burst, which is pretty good.
Or
spend 3, and it's 64 to all creatures in a 30-foot burst.
yeah, 30
Or
feet
30
all
foot
around
emanation,
you.
yeah.
Pretty good.
So, yeah, I think that one's fun. And then level 4, fly.
So what's the thinking behind fly? Walk me through this.
Fly. Now, this might be a little bit, I'm worried that this is a little bit of because you had like where something goes wrong. And so you then like overcompensate for how to fix the thing that happened.
Right.
And so now I've gotten this thing that would have been really helpful against Ugathi, and we're not going to have to deal with anything flying again, being too high up. But who knows?
So the idea of fly is if something is out of your reach, you can use fly to get up
Send
to it.
mag to it, essentially.
So it's going to be a flying mag situation.
Yes, that's the dream. Or flying Istin situation.
That sounds great.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
bird. It's a
let's-
plane. It's Magdaruna Lacewing Skullcrusher.
Let's give it a try.
Right? Just having Trill, like, instead of Mag carrying Trill gets to carry Mag.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when there were no footprints, that's when mag is
There's
flying.
literally
Yeah,
only one
that's when I
set of
cast
footprints
fly
because
upon you.
Trill is levitating Mag off the ground.
There's only ever one set. Trill's either in Mag's bag or Trill is levitating Mag.
I think we can use this for some town scenes where it's much easier for them to practice the lift.
Oh, yeah. I think we
Oh.
can just have a lot of fun
Yeah.
with this one in general.
The lift is back, hopefully.
And then I kept it nice and necromantic with Worms Repast.
Worms
also at a heightened
Repast.
level.
The rare spell featured in the Abomination Vault's adventure path itself, a custom spell
Ooh.
for this adventure.
Yeah. So we'll get into
Interesting choice.
a little later, maybe at some point. We'll see why Trill chose that one. Because that one was a little personal one for her.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. And there's more that you're going to see that you're going to hear in the show of those choices. But we're going to move on to Zoe.
Hello.
Big headline, I think, here, looking at the choices that you sent over, is that you're doubling down on deception.
Going deep on deception.
And that took a few forms. One, your skill increase. You get a lot of those because you're a rogue. You get one every single level. So a lot of your skills are going to go through the roof. But the first one that went through that roof is deception. It's master deception.
Felt right. I feel like if she's gotten the hat and, figured out her battle style as AO instead of Norman, like having that enhanced for creating diversions or lying to people or trying to wheedle her way into stuff, just that's who she is.
Playing off of that theme, your general feat that you picked, what did you pick up?
I picked something called Double Speak, which I'm kind of excited about.
I'm excited about it too, for reasons that I think might be different from you, and I want to hear your feelings about this.
Well, it felt character appropriate. So Double Speak gives you basically the ability to speak in code to any ally you've known more than a week in the game. I think it's in the game, not in real life, because I'm definitely in the clear if it's real life.
So does that mean you can't talk to Isthin? Does that mean that Isthin
I had
has
that thought.
no idea
Or
what's
Istin
going
won't
on?
know the
The hell is
At
she
some point, we're going to
talking
go to
about?
town and retrain some stuff, and we'll be able to fix that. But yeah, I think for right now, poor Istin will not get the messages. But it means, so she can say things to them that others will not understand. The idea is she sort of emphasizes things. But in my mind, this is also perfect with like a Nyang Nyang Bonobo situation, even if a creature speaks under. Like, I feel like we're going to pass codes through Nyang Nyang Bonobos that it's going to feel right.
Yeah. Here's what I really like about it. So Doublespeak says you're skilled at saying one thing while meaning something different. You disguise your true meaning behind other words and phrases, relying on subtle emphasis and shared experience to convey meaning that only your allies understand. I think that the way that that's going to play out in the table is that if we're in a situation like that Mercian situation where you run into this person and you are like running a con on them, this lets you in disguise tell your friends what the con is.
Right.
Like this helps you out like so much
Oh,
on
is this
that.
going to mean I'm going to have to start communicating though? That hasn't really been my thing.
I guess you don't have to use it, but
No,
yeah.
that's true. I also just like that it's like another using words to get done what she wants, which is fun with biting words and all of her
Yeah.
expletives. Like that she's continuing to use mind tricks and deception to do things. Oh,
The gift of gab.
that's right.
Yeah.
Not Istin's gift of gab. That's a different gift of gab.
Is it
gap.
really a gift, though, is the question. Yeah, I was going to say.
The next thing I wanted to talk about with the stuff that you picked is stuff that might be on the chopping block. Like we don't need to talk about this if you don't want to, but there are a couple things that you're looking at potentially retraining. Do you want to
Yes.
spell out what those are, or do you just want to tease that? What do you think?
Sure. I don't, neither, I think what'll be fun is what I retrain them into, but I'm not going to, we'll save that for whenever they get retrained. Fidget will come and teach me how to do them, and we'll have a whole scene. But one of my skill feats from, I believe, back up in level 2 or 3 very early on was backup disguise, which now that I've got the hat, I don't need it. It's not doing much for me. So it feels like it could be put to better use. Definitely not giving up on disguises. I think that's clear, but
Yeah, you don't need a disguise kit anymore if you got magic.
that's right. And then my ancestry feat at level 5, I picked Kitsune Spell Mysteries, which felt right as she becomes more magical, but it turns out that it just doesn't give me access to spells that are that helpful. I'm not sure I've ever cast one of them.
I don't think you have.
I think it's
I'm looking at it right now. You can pick up one slot. It's an ancestry feat that gives you one slot. You can choose Bane, Illusory Object, or Sanctuary.
Yeah. And Trill has Bane.
And it's been
A
Yeah.
bane.
not great with Trill.
Right. There was one
Yeah.
time where it was amazing.
Still sits
was it
there,
the
don't know
puddings?
why.
There was some time where Trill really aced the use of Bane, but
I don't remember it.
I think it was the psychics.
was it the psychics?
Oh, did
Anyways,
you
I think it was
bane
the
the
psychic
psychics?
I think I did.
Okay.
first of all,
That
I
was a
have
long
to
time
pick
ago.
one of these things each morning, and I never seem to pick the one that then when we get to a fight, I'm like, oh, I would use that one.
Yeah.
Illusory
problem.
object, I just there's the mage hand. I don't
Right.
I've never needed to cast an object. It's like the illusions come in elsewhere. And then Sanctuary, a couple of times I've thought about casting either on myself or on Trill, but it ends if you take a hostile action, and we're always trying to kill these biddies. So then it goes away.
The fairly high density of hostile actions in our combat encounters. That's just my personal opinion.
So anyways, I each day I pick one of these, and then it's never the right one, and I never use it. So we're going to give it the boot and find something else.
Yeah, I get it. I think that's something that I wanted to work more than it did, because it's like the idea of AO has this magic that is from being a kitsune. The idea that AO is just bristling with this inborn magic is such a nice bit of fantasy, that then it's sort of a bummer that the spells are I don't know.
Yeah, it turns out what makes AO is not the classical kitsune magic, right? So I sort of like that that isn't what she accesses. She uses these words and mind tricks and stuff, and that is what is makes her and what her real magical strengths are. So that's what we'll go with. Mostly it just wasn't that helpful.
But I'm such a sucker for the thing of mechanics follow story and story follows mechanics. So it's when you got something that's not working for you, you can kind of justify it as her story is taking her in a different direction. And I don't know. That's just something that I like about this game in particular. But
Agreed.
then there's more friends that you'll see in the show that we're leaving a mystery. Speaking of mysteries, it's Armat Humphreys, the most mysterious of all of our players.
Good evening,
People, I guess
Lars.
you're a mystery in that people are I thought his name was Our Matt. That's kind of a mystery, right?
That's pretty much the deepest mystery associated with me, sadly. Yeah.
Armat, the big headline, as far as I can see, is similar to Trill's. You got new spells. You're getting new slots. This is a huge level for the Magus class.
Totally. I get the weapon specialization damage boost.
A little bit of what Mag's getting.
Also, like Mag, I'm boosting athletics up to master, so I can use my reach trip more often, which I'm really excited about. I still do have assurance in athletics, so we'll see if that ever works for me.
It has
maybe.
yet to come out. It's weird that it hasn't ever worked for you either.
Yeah.
David, it's
Sort of
so strange.
disappointing.
Armat is suffering from the same problem that you suffered from, where you just couldn't figure it out. You just couldn't make it? Okay. It might be that the feat is bad. Okay.
Oh, there are bad feet?
There are. It turns out.
You heard it here first, folks.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, like I just think whatever. I don't think the math is tuned right. Like it's tuned to try to do something and it doesn't, and instead to do something sometimes or most of the time, and instead it does it never. I don't get how stat blocks work, so I'm just like completely ignorant about the math in this game. But,
okay, sorry to go back to the assurance with athletics thing. now that the sort of like legendary journey of like we've told the story of David and assurance and athletics like very, very well, right? Like we've done it. We've told. This is a
we've
coda.
Overtold it.
Yeah,
because I'm not over it.
Okay, well, here's maybe what's gonna help you get over it. The problem that I see, just as like a person who plays this game a lot with assurance in athletics, is that it relies on a sort of idiotic kind of metagame thinking. That is thus, you have to think to yourself, and I'm not saying like you didn't do this. I'm not saying you're not like
I don't take
this isn't a criticism of you remotely, but like. You have to think to yourself something like, there are 6 enemies in this room. Chances are they're all terrible at doing anything. Like you have to employ the metagame thinking of the more enemies I'm facing, the less likely it is that any of them are going to be able to individually like pose any threat to
each
me.
Each of them is a wimp. And so therefore I should, when I try to push them around, it's probably going to work.
Right. And it's like, that doesn't make that much in-universe sense. Like if you opened a door into a room and you saw 8 scary people, you probably wouldn't be like, well, there are 8 of them, so that probably means that each of them individually is a pushover.
I can grapple any one of them.
Do you get what I mean? It's like that's what you have to do to use it at all. I mean, and we're not even sure it works then, and that is nonsense.
I do get that, Lars, and also it makes me wonder if this adventure path is not a particularly good fit for it, whereas other scenarios might be,
right?
Because the like what you just described of like you walk into an area and there's 6 little things to like bop.
Yeah,
that never happens.
Yeah.
First of all, the maps, as you say, I guess, are notoriously narrow, so there isn't even room for there to be a lot. We always walk into a room and there's a giant thing or a giant thing and a medium-sized thing. So it's just like any which, you know, I guess
maybe
just
scratch it off the menu immediately then. Like
exactly.
Just forget about it.
So the mid-flits on the very first level were kind of like it. Oh, I guess the skeletons in the cemetery.
There was
like
one encounter with a bunch of hands once that you could have used.
There we go. Maybe it's also just doesn't get along with this AP particularly well.
Well, okay.
In addition to whatever else.
The other thing that Paizo Adventure Design is notorious for, in addition to tight quarters, is not throwing a lot of lower level creatures at you. Like that's another criticism that people have. I don't know if that one, like that's not one that I feel as deeply as the small maps thing, but it's something that people talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, Armat, back the assurance in athletics cul-de-sac having reached its conclusion.
I don't know about that. We're probably more juice in this lemon.
Armat, let's talk spells. What spells you got? Tell me about your level 4 spells. Tell me about your studious spells.
I am very excited. I get 2 level 2 spell slots, which is really a nice bonus because normally Magus, you only have like 4 of your highest 2 spell levels, basically.
Right. Like right now you would have typically 2 level 3 slots and 2 level 4 slots. And you lose all of your lower level slots.
Which is an interesting thing about the way the Magus is built. And so it makes that actually that Ring of Minor Arcana really, really useful because it gives me additional lower level slots I can use on True Strike, which is one of the studious spells the Magus gets, along with Magic Mouth and Spider Climb. And I think there's one more. Is that right?
Yeah. Tell me about studious spells. Flesh that out for folks at home that might not know. If you wouldn't mind.
Right. So basically, the Magus is a prepared caster. In the morning, you get all your spell slots. And these studious spell slots, because they're sort of in addition to the regular 4 spell slots I'd get, I can only use them to prepare a limited number of spells,
like utility spells.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, mostly what I'm going to be using them for is True Strike, which is amazing, even though it really was disappointing in the last encounter.
You got some raw rolls. You had such good
ideas. The dice were not
that
hot.
Paid off very badly.
I'm not bitter about that dispel magic. I don't wake up shaking my dispel magic.
It was so perfect. It was exactly the thing.
I know. I was so excited.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's a classic Istin moment. Like big build up and a womp womp to the face.
Okay, so you got those new slots. You got these studious spell slots for utility spells. What are your new sexy level 4 spells that you picked up?
Ooh, yeah. So I took Draw the Lightning, which is a really cool spell that lets me like call down a lightning storm and channel it through my weapon. So when I cast it, I get to throw a lightning bolt at an enemy. And then for a minute, it adds like a D12 of electricity damage to each of my strikes. So this is like a huge damage increase. It's a lot like Flame Wisp, but it doesn't refresh itself, kind of. And you just get it flat for the minute. So that's pretty exciting.
The range on the spell is wild. You can cast it from 120 feet away.
This would have been handy in the Jafaki fight.
Yeah.
And then the other level 4 spell I took was Stone Skin, because I figure, being a little tankier at times could be handy. Maybe Istin will use it, maybe Mag will use it, but it seems like just an good all-arounder.
Just resistance to physical damage. Simple and easy.
And useful.
So
yeah, when we finally run into that crowd of lower-level jerks, Athletics and Stone Skin are going to be...
That's it. You're going to see a new
staple of the day.
Yeah.
Then they'll see. Then they'll all see.
Is there anything else that we should talk about, or does that cover? I mean, I feel like that kind of covers the main thing. We picked up a couple feats. Do you want to?
General feat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was quickly kind of torn about this, but I had 2 options that I was excited about. I ended up going Ancestral Paragon. And so I was debating between Unwavering Mien, which, like, anytime you get affected by a mental effect, you are affected 1 less degree. So basically, if it was a level 2 spell, you get it for level 1. Or 2 rounds, you'd be affected by it for 1.
Got it.
Is that right?
It reduces the duration of your of mental things.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so my thinking was basically that would be Istin's like hard reward from getting jumped in by that confusion spell when everyone just had to kick his ass for a while. But the other one I went with was, and this is the one I ended up going with, was Cooperative Nature. I feel like Istin has had to learn to like work with other people a little bit more and understand that not everybody sees things as Akkadian Kalianite might. So
the text for this feels like it is like tailor-made for the story of Istin. The short human lifespan lends perspective and has taught you from a young age to set aside differences and work with others to achieve greatness. Like it feels like Istin does that all the time. Istin is completely to me it feels like Istin is like always ready to let bygones be bygones.
Yeah, I think that is the fun thing about him. He's not a brooder. He's kind of practical and easygoing in a certain way. It adds a +4 circumstance bonus to any aid checks I might do.
Wow.
So that's going to open up a really big option for my 3rd action every turn. So that'll be really cool.
Yeah, and you've got high intelligence, so you have tons and tons of skills, and you are pretty likely at this point with that +4, like you have, if you're aiding with like nature, society, religion, occultism, or crafting, those are all skills that are in the like low teens, like 11, 12, 13 sort of zone. And with that +4, that's a much closer to like it like doubles your chance of success on those at this point.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was kind of fun how it worked out character-wise. So I enjoyed that.
Awesome. I love it. Armat, very exciting to see you playing this character. I'm like, just as your friend, happy to see you playing a character class that you are like jiving with. Like this just feels like you're having a better time now.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like I love overcomplicated spell lists to pour over and like
Armat, enjoy overthinking things.
I think the Magus is like, for me, a great example of that because it's like you only have those 4 main slots. So the number of options you have at any point really isn't that overwhelming just in terms of looking at spell lists. But the range of things that you have on a moment-to-moment basis, there's like massive flexibility. So it's like there's not too much mechanical overhead to making it, to understanding what your options are, but then there are really interesting choices within those options.
Totally. I just love that Istin is basically a really versatile pickup player. You know, he can jump in and find those moments in the game where he can try and use his skills to make a difference, like a good inflection point in a fight, which I love.
Is that are you the Scottie Pippen of this team? Is Istin the Scottie Pippen of the group? David, does that check out to you, Mr. Basketball?
I could see that. Yeah, Mag is the Michael Jordan. Yeah,
based on what Armat is describing, that's a broadly appropriate basketball.
Okay, we did it. We achieved broad appropriateness, and with that, let's move on. Thanks everybody for this conversation. I hope that you folks at home, I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully that fleshes out the mechanical side of things. What do you say we move on and get into our game? You stand in the inner sanctum of Jafaki, the Sugathi who had spent the last several centuries coercing and manipulating creatures into changing themselves and becoming part of the process, a combination of alchemical and flesh-warping experiments meant to create the perfect soldier. With Jafaki's operation now in the past, you set out to take the next steps on your quest to stop the risen Belcora Haravex from using her weapon, the negative energy coming from a temple to the outer god Nimbaloth, to destroy the city of Absalom in an act of revenge for jettisoning her once prominent family from the upper crust of polite society. What will those next steps be? I ask because I have no idea what's going to happen in this episode, and I would like somebody to tell me what is happening in our game.
I believe we left off with Trill asking Ao if they want to loot the body.
Well, let me tell you something else. Where we left off, to put an even finer point on it, is Ao looking for teeth. So, it's episode 115. We're breaking off a new 5. We're resetting the hero points this time. 2 hero points. We're going to do it just the same we did in the last set of 5. I thought that worked out pretty well. Little bit of a house rule before we jump into it. I'm letting spellcasters get slots and spells on level up. This is a house rule.
Thank you.
Oh.
But instead of putting a speed bump into the game, let's just imagine that as Ao is extracting Jafaki's teeth, Trill and Istin are able to take the time to connect to their expanded magical powers while recuperating from this fight. I think that it made sense to run it rules as written the first few times, but it's just like martial classes get all their stuff. Why shouldn't spellcasters get all their stuff too? That's just how it just seems more reasonable.
Thanks.
Okay. So we're now rejoining the scene. Jafaki just recently fallen. The havoc of this encounter having shattered beakers, spilled alchemical fluids, disrupted this pristinely but strangely maintained laboratory. And what's going to happen next?
I think Ao manages to rest. I imagine these are all long, spindly teeth, I feel like, but fairly large.
Yeah. I think if this were a game with a sanity mechanic, the experience of reaching into this mouth that is like a triangular mouth with these barbs at each point and extracting these teeth from this like horrifying maw that Jafaki had. If this were a game with a sanity mechanic, I would make you roll a save against going crazy.
Yeah. I think for that reason, Ao reaches in and very assuredly but deftly rips out one tooth instead of taking a bunch. And then she takes it and she tucks it in the pocket of her shirt, or I guess her cape, where Fraum is. She sort of quietly says, see what you make of that. Maybe it'll make you stronger.
Sort of ominous moment passes. It sounds like Trill is interested in seeing what else is on this body as Ao has this moment of connection with her, I guess her oldest friend, right? With Fraum.
Yeah, among the oldest.
Yeah. So here's what you find on Jafaki's body. There's a large variety of infused alchemical items. These are items that are volatile, that at the end of the day will dissipate into uselessness, but you have, I guess, a fair amount of time today to take advantage of them. You find one acid flask. This is something that Jafaki threw at you earlier. This is a pretty nasty acid flask. This is a moderate infused acid flask, a couple infused bottled lightnings. You find a poison in a strange little vial that when you smell it stings your nose.
Oh.
You find something called a cognitive mutagen. This is a purple fluid sloshing around in another one of these custom-made pieces of glassware. This is something that helps you think. It helps you recall knowledge at the penalty of being less physically capable.
So it's like Otari Adderall?
Yes, that's right. He got it from a guy at the high school who just happens
That's right. He's been up studying late.
Yeah.
All you got to do is tell him that you have trouble finishing your homework, and they'll just give it to you.
It was prescribed for Jafaki. Jafaki has done a number of things, but illegally obtained medication is not one of them.
He has scruples, you know?
Yeah.
Look, you don't get to be head of the process if you're mucking around with prescription crime abuse.
Yeah. You think that he would get into Phi Beta Kappa if he had gotten busted for illegally obtaining cognitive mutagen?
It's not a chance he was willing to take.
They got into Stanford.
What is the Sugathi equivalent of Gossip Girl?
The Sugathi is Gossip Worm.
Gossip Worm?
Yeah.
Gossip worm.
Obviously.
That's
So
right.
simple. So elegant.
I need to watch this.
XO Gossip Worm.
It's nice to have the episode title out of the way.
Other alchemical stuff you find are a couple elixirs of life and a
Nice.
couple mist form elixirs.
Ooh,
Remind me what Mist Form
that's
Elixir is?
Mist form elixir makes it so that you are concealed. So anything targeting you, including healing spells, has to pass a flat check to hit you. A DC 5 flat check. It's pretty simple, but it comes in handy sometimes. You also find a couple of keys that match some of the keys that you have already got in your possession. These are the keys that let you pass through that double locked door to get into the testing room where the Sugathi was evaluating the Distrachon.
Mm-hmm.
And you find a couple more interesting items.
Do tell.
A small monkey.
Yeah,
And a large monkey holding hands.
that's right.
Go on.
The monkey twins are your problem now. Okay, so
This is my circus. They are my monkeys.
you find this alchemist's equipment. This is a very powerful set of tools to make alchemical stuff, if that's something that you want to do, which why would it be? More interesting than that even, you find 2 wands. One that can cast the spell Magic Missile at level 2, which is nonsense
Ayo.
because it doesn't level up at level 2. He just has a really fancy wand of Magic Missile that casts a level 1 Magic Missile. The other thing that you find is a wand of Gentle Repose. This is a strange sort of green wooden wand tucked into Jafaki's pouch. And Gentle Repose targets a corpse, and it stops the corpse from decaying and from being turned into undead.
Oh.
For a day, I believe, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the duration is on
I think
Gentle
it's
Repose.
A day, because I have
It's a day,
gentle.
yeah.
Trill has Gentle Repose on her on her staff of necromancy.
Got it. And then the last thing you find on Javaki's body, this treasure trove that this creature has, is a rapier. And it is a nice rapier. It is a +1 striking rapier.
Is that better than the dagger of venom?
Yes.
Definitely.
Instead of taking a rapier, I want to just insist that I have one, even though I don't anymore. So that's what I'll be doing.
That was fun at L3, L4. Yeah.
Who
Okay.
knows? Robin, if you want it, I think you should take it.
Yeah, and you can have all the wands.
That I think makes sense because you can cast almost all of those.
Is Trill just a tiny Sugathi?
Trill is basically at this
Terrifying.
point a tiny Sugathi.
Tiny Sugathi necromancer.
Floating around.
The number of wands that the group currently has is obscene.
I have a
we
lot
gotta
of
sell.
wands.
We gotta sell some shit.
If we sell some of those, I have ideas.
David, thank you so much for making the bag of holding so easy to find the right spot for. I really appreciate it. I know exactly where to put these wands.
Lars, it's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. I'm so glad it's working for you. I was thinking of you when I did it.
Would anybody like any of these infused alchemical items? Does anybody want to take a hold of those things in case it comes in useful, or is that something we're going to leave on the side of the road?
The mist thing seems cool. I don't know that I'm the one to take it, but I feel like
Yeah, I
someone
think
should.
at least throwing them into the bag of holding totally makes sense. And then then if we use them during this day, fantastic. That acid flask seems something super useful to Mag or Istin.
We don't have good dexterity. We're strength, so we can't throw things.
Makes me miss Vadim.
I mean, because bottled lightning and acid flask are a little silly for Trill because she has cantrips that do the same thing.
Well, bottled lightning is pretty good.
It's pretty
hits
good.
Flatfoot and like.
Oh yeah, I guess Trill maybe should take a bottled lightning.
I just think I should not be the one throwing the bottled lightnings because it's more helpful to me if someone else gets the person flat-footed. But I have several, and we'll take someone should take them.
Yeah, Trill will take one of the moderate ones.
Is throwing an athletic trait? Like,
It's
is that something you can use athletics
Dexterity.
to do?
It's an attack. So it counts against your map. It uses your ranged attack bonus, which is dexterity.
Right. It's like a ranged trip.
It
ranged
is.
proning.
It's true. Okay, so
right.
Trill hangs on to these infused bottled lightnings, and you continue searching around the room, and you find a couple more objects hidden in Jafaki's laboratory.
Ooh.
Wait, Lars, what is this
Yes.
infused wyvern potion?
That's this poison I was telling you about.
Wow, that's bonkers.
It
It's
does
5d6
a lot of
poison.
It does a
damage.
lot of damage.
Yeah, and it's a DC 26 fortitude.
Yeah. If Jafaki hadn't
that's
suddenly
dang.
been Novad, but with 1,000,000 points of damage in the 7th round of this encounter, he probably at a certain point would have chosen to float down to you and stab one of you with this poison. But as things stand, I guess this is your gain. If anybody would like to put that wyvern poison on a piercing or slashing weapon, you could deliver that poison if you wanted to.
Oh, do you want to put it on the kukri?
You want to toss a little poison on the kukri?
Does it always poison, or does it poison once?
It poisons once, and then so the way that poison works is you spend some time applying it to a weapon, and then the first hit with that weapon applies the poison.
The first hit. Well, yeah, it makes sense to use on the behemoth.
If you wanted to, you could apply it to an arrow on chompers, or you could apply it to the kukri, since both of those do piercing or slashing.
No, the kukri feels right.
The kukri just feels right. Okay. So is Ao going to apply that poison? Are we doing that immediately? You have 2 doses of this poison, and they're going to expire at the end of the day.
Seems like I should.
Great. Okay. So you do find a couple more things in this room as we finish clearing out all of these items. This is just jam-packed with stuff. I'm going to fly through these because I don't think any of these are immediately that interesting for you, but just for the sake of completeness, you find a kit that can repair things. It is a repair kit, a superb repair kit that gives you bonuses to crafting checks to repair, which is not a thing that anybody does. Another set of alchemist's tools, some more expanded healer's tools, another crafter's eyepiece, and some anti-plague. This is something that you can drink to give you a bonus to fortitude saves against diseases. And there are 2 of those.
Do you have to drink those before you get the disease, or can you get the disease and then drink it and it sort of helps you fend it off?
Both.
Like vaccine or medicine?
I think both,
Okay.
because generally speaking, when you get infected with a disease, you make a fortitude save. So this would apply to that. And then usually it's like every day you have to pass a check on a disease, and this lasts for 24 hours. So it would help with that too. Definitely, if you start seeing things that inflict disease on you, maybe it's worth popping one of those. Looking around Jafaki's laboratory, that is about it here. How does everybody feel? Like, how is everybody feeling about this experience of having finally undone this operation?
I think Istin, this is like the first really big monster he's been alongside to defeat. And I think he would be like totally excited in his way and be like, that was incredible. Did you see it? It was just floating up in the air, and we have to get drinks and discuss this and process it at some point.
And to the surprise of no one, Ao has not processed this, I think. But I think
we ever really process things?
No, we never really get around to it. I think the removing of the tooth from Jafaki was sort of like the reset. But I'm not sure she's come down. I feel like there's just adrenaline, right? I think she's just kind of wired and amped up.
So it may take a little bit of time for her to
process
it.
Yeah, I think Mag, as she's loading all of these items into the bag of holding, it's like Mag's not much of a loot lady. That's not her thing. It's not what animates her. I think maybe this is the first time taking something out of the dungeon where it just seems distasteful, even though it's only being removed for a very practical and necessary reason, to go resources to then go and gear up and get the things they need to fight that. It's it just having these things in our possession just feels
like these were the implements of
yeah,
some really horrible stuff.
Yeah, it feels distasteful in a different way.
Right. It's not like the ghouls where it's just they had weapons and that kind of thing. It's this Jafaki had specific implements that they used, and these are those. Yeah,
for this it's such a mindful thing. It's not a ghoul that's it's violent thing and it tries to hurt. It's like all of the planning and the specificity to it, and it's a very thoughtful and mindful and intentional kind of evil thing. It's much more like Belcora or Vala, than it is like the more just sort of senseless bad stuff. It's more upsetting.
To sort of play into that, as you're searching the room near this southern wall where Jafaki was assembling this creature, this amalgam of all these different body parts, you see a sketch pad. And on the sketch pad, there are instructions that explain how to harness the ambient, like necromantic energy in this area to animate this golem that Jafaki was making. And the sketch pad describes how this ambient, like, necrosis is able to be harnessed by this machinery that is connected to the head of this Morlock in the room that is just constantly going, ah. Looking at the sketchpad, you get a little bit of a sense of at least how to disrupt this particular machine. Just speaking to what David was saying, like there's one implement here that isn't necessarily going to be worth any money to you, isn't going to help you gear up, but that you get the sense that you might be able to dismantle.
Smash it.
Yeah.
Well, I think Ao is going to use her new hand wraps and try them out and like zap this contraption. Well, maybe Trill's shouting out as she reads, and Ao comes over and just like starts sending electricity at their, magical light at this thing.
So at a certain point in your investigation of the room, you realize that Ao is zapping this machine to destroy it.
Do you need a hand?
Yes, we have to get rid of it. We're so close to ending the process and keeping others from this.
I think that's a noble goal. What should I smash? Always love smashing.
And she uses the light to just draw like a big circle around the obvious thing that should be smashed. This like Morlock head. This!
Right, here I go. Smashing time!
And Mag reaches into the bag of holding and grabs one of the bottled lightnings that we just picked up and throws it at this contraption, adding a little more electricity to what Ao is already projecting at it.
And now it's flat-footed, so I can do even more damage.
Nice.
I was already flat-footed with Mr. Wall anyway.
Oh, right.
So you turn your attention together towards this machine and in unison destroy it together, bringing to an end the last bit of suffering Jafaki has been able to put onto this floor.
Reminds me of when we destroyed the effigy.
The stained glass.
The stained glass.
And the 4 stained glass windows.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of the above.
We have a
We fucked up some shit.
Yeah.
And speaking of, I whenever think about the stained glasses, I think about burning bodies and just corpse desecration in general.
Sure. It is a role-playing game after all.
Yeah.
Whose corpse would you most like to desecrate,
Okay,
David?
let's wait. Okay, David, where were you going?
Does anyone have any interest in feeding Jafaki's corpse to the Shanragal behemoth and or using it as a kind of like distraction during that combat? Like we know that thing it can't really see, but it's very sensitive to sound and touch. So like maybe we hurl Jafaki's body off the balcony on one side and then run up and hit it from the other side. Like, is there any way we can really disrespect this being on our way out the door? It's what he'd want.
Leave no corpse undesecrated. That's our motto.
We are the corpse
Amen.
flingers.
This corpse is just begging
It's
to be
unflung,
flung.
yeah. Wait, do we have any poison that we could put on him to poison the Chernicoff behemoth?
Do we have any?
I think we had two servings of that poison.
Wyvern poison, right?
I just went dark. Sorry.
No, makes
The
sense.
poisons are currently in Ao's inventory.
In AOs? Okay, cool.
Well, I put one on the kukri, so let's AO. Having healed everyone in the midst of all of this, I think we had some more time pass for healing. AO uses a little bit of extra gauze that she didn't need to smear a nice sheen of poison along the side of Jafaki's worm. I picture more of like a mealworm. Like anyways.
He's like a mealworm the size of a Cadillac.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of an annoying question. This says it's an injury poison.
What
Not
kind
an
of
ingest?
GM would I be?
Okay. Yep. Cool. That was what I was hoping you would say.
To not let you smearing poison all over the level boss and then throwing it at the other
Off a
boss
balcony.
like off a balcony. What kind of game would I be running if I wouldn't let that work merely because it's an injury poison instead of a consume poison? Please.
I believe this falls under the rule of cool.
Rule of
Thank
cool.
God.
Armad, it's the first rule in the book, okay? I think it is actually
You're
the
right.
first rule.
I've shamed myself
Yeah.
and my family today.
Get out of
and
here.
I'd like to really apologize, and I'll see you on Well Actually, my new spin-off podcast, where injury poisons have to be used as injury poisons.
A riveting podcast.
Yeah.
You learn something new every episode.
It's the Minutia Cast with our Matt Humphreys.
I will allow that. The infused wyvern poison, if chomped on, will poison.
Awesome.
So we're gonna have to carry this corpse up a floor to dump it off the balcony.
Well, actually, honey, I just took Hefty Holler a moment ago and
Just shove it through the door at it.
David, you just earned a spot on my guess. First guess.
Hero point for Mag for using the newly acquired Hefty Holler skill feat.
Yeah, I think like if we're treating we're rubbing poison all over Jafaki's body, and y'all, what I'm thinking here is like throw this thing off the balcony on one end of the arena and then charge at it from the other end of the arena, more or less. Or like Trill. Is Trill able to make it fly?
Would I be able to do it without burning a spell slot since we're not in combat? No, Lars says
No way.
Rule of cool?
No.
No?
Only when Armat does it.
Well, actually,
Yeah, no. Spell slot has nothing to do with in combat,
And
out
this
of
is
combat.
too heavy for me to mage hand or TKP.
We should.
why don't we just drop it from the stands, and then while it's chowing down, we walk and jump down a little bit further away? Like, we know how far its tremor sense goes, right? Like, it's 30 feet. Is that what we remembered? So if we jump down
Sounds
like
about right.
30 feet away from it, we could just
Yeah, I
sneak
guess we
up
don't really
and-
jump much, but we totally could. I'm fine with that. I don't know. I think we don't need
Sure.
to make this super complicated, right?
Yeah.
It's already
That was
pretty.
my-
We've already smeared, injury poison on the boss, and we're carrying them up a floor.
So there's hat on a hat potential here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, so let's head up to the balcony, and then we'll sort of like dump it off on one side, and then we'll head 30 feet over, jump down.
Okay. So Mag, newly empowered to just carry, like you see Mag's muscles like stretching the bounds of her shirt as she manages to drag this enormous body of Jafaki, this 16-foot long worm covered with wyvern poison, you manage to drag the body all over this floor to the stairs leading up and then back around down towards the balcony overlooking the arena where Belcora Haravex would have entertained guests 500 or so years ago as they watched gladiatorial combat, blood sport happening in front of their eyes. When you get to that balcony overlooking the arena, part of that balcony is extended over the arena floor. And there are stairs leading down from there down to the floor of the arena itself. This is immediately above where you fought the Sugathi researcher with the Dreshkins. You know now, looking, that you're standing immediately above this sort of observation chamber. And you drag Jafaki's body through the remnants of the statuary created by the basilisks that used this area to hunt for foes. So what do you do?
Jafaki's away?
Yeah. While hefting Jafaki's body on her shoulders, she tries to look down into the arena to check out what's happening down below. So what do I see?
You see this mass of flesh and mucus and tormented faces looking more aggressive than you have seen it previously. It seems as though perhaps it has not been getting the food that it relies on from the Sugathis. So it is roaming the chamber, this 300 by 100 foot arena covered in sand, this blood-encrusted sand. And this creature is starting to move faster, starting to rampage, searching hungrily for food.
And as she sees this frenzy of activity from the behemoth below, Mag turns briefly to the friends by her side, and in a whisper, they can hear, but the beast below can't. Mag gets just the smallest trace of a grin on her face and locks eyes with Ao and winks and says, "Trust the process," and throws the body down below.
And the body of Jafaki twists in the air as it plummets down to the sand below. And we'll pick up from there next time.
Yes.
Roots of Ruin is a Tabletop Gold production produced under the Paizo Incorporated Community Use Policy, using trademarks and copyrights owned by Paizo that are covered under that policy. Paizo does not recognize, endorse, or sponsor this project in any way, and we are expressly prohibited from charging you to use or access this content. For more information about Paizo Inc. and Paizo products, visit paizo.com. All original characters and content in the Roots of Ruin are the property of Tabletop Gold, and all rights are reserved. We at Tabletop Gold would love to hear from you. On our website, tabletopgold.com, you can learn more about us and our shows, pick up great merch, and connect to the best online community in all of podcasting. Thanks for listening.